Hey everyone! Today we're going to do something you definitely haven't seen in Nomad Sculpt tutorials on YouTube yet. We are going to model custom star-shaped grills covered in gemstones. As you can see on the screen right now, you voted for grills yourself. So let's make some grills. By the way, when I was rendering this model in the app, I looked at the result and thought it would be really cool, just for demonstration purposes in the video, to replicate this visual in plastic. Especially since I already had both resin colors on hand, black and yellow. So I went ahead and printed this test model, the teeth from black photopolymer and the star itself from yellow. Look how awesome this looks in reality. Now, let's jump into Nomad Sculpt and break down how to model all of this. But before we start, I want to remind you right away, I don't manufacture grills in real life, and I am not a dental technician. I'm making this model purely from my own perspective on the process and showing how I would do it, drawing on my jewelry experience. By the way, if you missed the first video about grills, I highly recommend watching that one first. My parameters and dimensions today are more of a starting point for your own models, because the tech process can vary for every master. Also, a quick reminder that these tutorials are not for absolute beginners. I show the logic and the workflow, which is much more valuable than just explaining buttons you should already know by now. For my Patreon subscribers, this video was released in early access a week early. You can also download the finished model there for analysis. In my opinion, it's always interesting to inspect and rotate the model created by the author yourself. Now, let's get to work. I've already loaded the teeth scan into Nomad Sculpt. By the way, if anyone has a clean, high-quality teeth scan that you wouldn't mind sharing with me and my Patreon subscribers to use for practice and future tutorials, I would be incredibly grateful. In the meantime, I'll start by masking the back section of two teeth. Now we need to extract the masked part. I'll tab right here. And in this menu, pay attention to the thickness. I'll set it to 0.85 mm with smoothness iterations set to 10 and borders only enabled. Then I'll hit extract. I'll clear the mask and change the matte cap. Here is how the back piece turned out. I'll recalculate its mesh using voxel. Next, I'll select the smooth brush, go into its settings, open filter and check front-facing vertex only. This action protects the opposite surface from being affected by the brush in thin areas of the 3D model. Now I can smooth everything out without touching the fitting surface that sits against the teeth. The mesh I made is a bit too dense, so I'll reduce the resolution and voxel remesh it again to make smoothing easier. Let's keep smoothing. Alright, next I'll clone the teeth and use the trim brush to delete everything except those two teeth. I'll voxel remesh it. Next I'll choose the clay brush to close up the gap between the teeth. I'll also pull these two teeth slightly downward using the move brush. Basically, our goal is to prepare the surface for working with the tube tool. I'm also using the smooth brush here. I'll change the matte cap to control the consistency of the surfaces. Let's tweak this slightly with the move brush. Now select tube. Snap is already enabled on my end. In curve mode, we enable closed. So let's configure its settings. I'll set the offset to 50%. By default, the tube sinks halfway into the model it snaps to. A 50% offset pushes it entirely to the outside, so its outer wall will lie perfectly on the surface I'm drawing on. Let's draw something shaped like a star. I'll change the profile from round to square. I'll adjust the radius. Since I plan to use 1 mm stones, the profile width needs to be 1.4 mm to leave a buffer for processing. If you click a point on the curve, it turns black. changing the segment from rounded to sharp and angular. Let's click through all the necessary corners. The profile is twisting a little and isn't sitting right just yet, so I'll keep adjusting it to find the exact star shape I need. It's also worth adding at least one white point between the black points so that the star rays lie flat against the tooth surface. I'll change the star's matte cap to yellow and continue tweaking its shape. You can turn off snap now to move the points very precisely. Since we set the tube radius to 0.7 mm, we get a width of 1.4 mm, but the profile thickness is also 1.4 mm. That's a bit too thick for Grillz. That offset should have probably been set around 20% instead of 50%. If I change the offset value on the finished object right now, the points won't automatically move to the new height. I would have to manually nudge every single point on the surface for the software to recalculate its new position. It's always better to calculate this percentage beforehand. Here is some simple math for the future. If I want a border width of 1.4 mm and a clean outer thickness of 1 mm after the final boolean. While the offset slider operates based on the tube's radius, where full extraction is 50%, here is how we calculate it. At zero offset, the tube sits right in the center and only its radius sticks out, which is 0.7 mm. We need to get 1 mm, meaning we need to lift it up by an additional 0.3 mm. Since the maximum 50% shift equals our radius, 0.7 mm, we simply divide 0.3 by 0.7 and multiply by 50%. We get roughly 21%. If I had set this 21% on the slider before drawing the curve, the star would have instantly had exactly 1 mm of volume on the outside, and the remaining 0.4 mm would sink into the tooth body for the future Boolean merge. I don't want to remold it right now, so I'll just use the gizmo to shift the star slightly. Next, I'll use my asset preset that has the stone, cutter and prong grouped together. I'll select everything in this group and use the transform tool to move the stone and cutter onto the star. To adjust the size, let's look right here. For some reason, the value shows 1.9, so let's tap here to reset it. Now it's back to 1, which is exactly the 1 mm I wanted. Alright, now we can start layout out the stones. The star has some surface issues right now, but we'll fix that later. For now, we need to place the stones and adjust the length of the star rays if necessary. To duplicate the stone asset, make sure the group and everything inside it is selected, hit Instance, and move the stone next to the previous one, keeping a distance of about 0.2 mm. Select the group again, hit Instance, and move it next to the last one. Yes, it's a tedious process, but with time, you'll get quite fast at it. I modeled this piece of Grillz in less than an hour. In this tutorial, I'm setting the distance between the stones by eye. I have a lot of experience doing this. The main thing is that we keep technical limits in mind and verify thicknesses when needed. If you find this difficult, I highly recommend adding a torus to this group to help control the gemstone spacing more accurately. You'll see exactly how to use it if you check out my previous iced out Grillz video. If we need to shift a stone that's already placed, select everything inside its group and move it. In this case, there's a small dip in the surface, so the stone jerks slightly during movement because it aligns to the surface normals. This stone is running a bit out of space, but since we haven't hit validate on the star yet, we can edit its shape to match the stone layout. For example, I want a curve in the ray right here. I'll move the points first and then reposition the stones. I think it's straightforward and clear. So I will continue to customize everything the way I like it. By the way, the loaded kit also included a prong. Let's find it. Go to its size settings make it 0.4 millimeters, and use the transform tool to drag it onto the star. Actually, I think 0.45 millimeters will look better. Let's leave it here for now. The surface of the star currently has some artifacts, dents, and imperfections, so it needs a bit of cleanup. I'll hit validate. See these artifacts I was talking about? We don't need them. Let's recalculate the mesh using voxel remeshing, and I'll try to clean them up with the smooth brush while softening the edges a bit at the same time. Remember to voxel remesh the model from time to time. I also use the flatten brush to fix shape flaws. Over here, we can tweak the shape slightly with the move brush. I'll also clear the artifacts from the inner side, though I'll be Boolean subtracting the teeth from the star later anyway, so it's optional. I'll keep refining the star's shape and fixing defects. This stone is still sitting in a small crater, and I don't like that. I'll fill this dip with the clay brush and then smooth the area out with the smooth brush. There we go. That's much better. Now let's make sure all the stones are sitting correctly on the star's surface and adjust their positions if needed. Everything looks right now, so we can move on to placing the prongs. First, I'll create a separate group for them. Alright, now we select the prong, hit instance and position them. I don't quite like the spacing between the stones over here, so I'll shift a few gemstones slightly and continue layout out the prongs. Prongs are all set. Next, we need the back of the star to follow the contour of the teeth perfectly. To do this, we first need to extend it slightly, so I'll just mask the back section. Invert the mask and use the gizmo to pull the surface out like this. Let's clear the mask. It might be worth cleaning up these edges a bit. I'll also tweak the shape of this section of the grills. Let's clean this up here too. Honestly, I don't like these sharp corners, so I'll chop them off a bit using the trim tool. Looks pretty good. Let's voxel remesh again. Oh, this part right here is redundant. Let's go over a few spots with the smooth brush again. I don't need this helper piece anymore. Now I'll duplicate the teeth and use them to Boolean subtract the back of the star. Next, I'll select any cutter, go into the layers, and increase the lower depth parameter. This allows me to easily select every single cutter in the scene with a single stroke of the stylus and then move them into a separate group or simply combine them with the join command. Now we can Boolean subtract the cutters from the star to drill the stone seeds. I'll also group all the gemstones together and delete any empty leftover groups to keep the scene tidy. I'll check over here because I forgot to remove the layers. Wait, where are my prongs? It looks like I accidentally deleted the group containing the prongs. I'll have to undo. Make sure you pay attention to your groups, unlike me. Okay, we're good now. The prongs are rescued and back where they belong. Alright, I need to merge these three parts into one. Yes, this is it. It looks awesome, don't you agree? If you do, where are your likes? If not, I'll see you in the comments telling me what's wrong and how it should have been done correctly. I want to check the thickness of the star to ensure it's nowhere under 0.8 millimeters. To do this, I'll mask the teeth and extract the surface at 0.8 millimeters. The only spot I don't like is right here, but it's not critical. I think it'll be fine. Next, I plan to optimize the model using decimation. 163,000 polygons will be plenty. I'll export the model as an STL file to check its weight in JewelCalc. It'll weigh roughly 2.3 grams in 14 karat yellow gold. I'll go back to Nomad to set up a render for this video's thumbnail. So here are the custom star-shaped grills we came up with. The model is completely ready for 3D printing, casting, and subsequent work by a stone setter. To visually demonstrate the finished result and show you that the model is entirely real, I printed it on a 3D printer. I made the teeth black and the grills themselves yellow. This is strictly a demonstration move for the video to create a nice visual contrast so you can clearly see how everything snaps into place. A small caveat: once cured, photopolymer resin becomes very rigid, and due to minor printing tolerances, plastic rubbing against plastic can cause friction and jamming. Therefore, solely for this on-camera demonstration, I scaled up the star grills by 2% so it slides smoothly and beautifully over the teeth in the shot. By the way, if you also need to quickly scale a model for your printer or tech tolerances, my app JewelCalc has a handy feature in the advanced settings section. You just enter the required scale percentage in the field and you get your upscaled model instantly. As it turned out, upscaling it by 2% was actually a bit too much, and I think 1% would have been more than enough. Again, I only did this to make sure everything slides on easily on camera for the video. If this tutorial was helpful to you, please make sure to support it with a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me push out these unique workflows. Also, let me know in the comments below, how did you like seeing the physical 3D printed result today? And would you like me to make more tutorials about custom grills and tooth jewelry in Nomad Sculpt? Your feedback really shapes the future of this channel. You can click on the screen right now to watch my other 3D jewelry modeling tutorials. And as always, you can download the finished .nom and .stl files for this lesson over on my Patreon. The link is waiting for you in the description below. And finally, a massive shout out to my Patreon community. You can see the names of these wonderful people on the screen right now. Thank you so much for your continuous support, which keeps me motivated to share my experience and reveal these jewelry secrets. You guys are the best. Thank you to each and every one of you, and I'll see you in the next one.